time and more questions. So let's get started, and we'll have our opening statement from Elias first. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Fellow Rebels, thank you for attending today. Thank you to those on YouTube who will be attending later on. My name is Elias Benjelloun, and I'm running to represent you as your next student body president. And in T-minus 6 days, you have a decision that can transform this campus. Now, I can sit up here and talk about how important this election is. But the reality is, every election is important. It's important because this student government is important. And the reason why is because you pay for the $1 million budget we oversee. Every penny we spend comes out of your pockets. So when casting your ballot next week, make sure you're voting for all the right reasons. It's time that we usher in new leadership. Leadership that eradicates political strife. That focuses on developing communication, progress, and teamwork. But most importantly, leadership that restores core values for our student government, academic enrichment, professionalism, and a strong but nonpartisan stance on advocacy issues. My ticket has the experience not only within CSUN to manage it effectively, but has experience outside of CSUN, both on and off campus in Nevada, to transform our student government and make these core values a reality. So a little bit about myself. I'm 19 years old. I'm part Moroccan and part Dutch, so ladies, watch out for the Moroccan spice. I graduated high school at 14 years old, and I've been here at UNLV since, and I've loved it. I've got into leadership right away. I founded the Students for Science Resource Board. I've ran a political organization for almost 3 years. I've served in several different service positions, including Rebel Service Council. I've served as a mentorship ambassador for a professional program hosted by OCA. I'm also the student representative for First Person Care Clinic. I've served as the student liaison for the Universal Education Foundation, which is an international organization. I served as an instructor for the Family Education and Empowerment Foundation, and even as a volunteer mentoring fellow high school students from which I graduated. So as you can see, my ticket does have the experience outside of CSUN to transform our student government. And now, I have the honor of serving as your College of Science Senator. So next week, when you cast your ballot, I ask that you vote for the right reasons, that you ensure that the individual you vote into the next executive board can effectively transform your student government and usher in the much needed new leadership we need. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to the debate.
Thank you, Elias. Jasmine, 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the moderator for hosting this debate, along with Vice President Jessica Lujan, Elections Director Tasha McRae, and her team for facilitating this debate, and everyone here for wanting to be informed. I'm running for student body president, and the job of student body president is to represent students to the UNLV administration, to the NC Board of Regents, and to the state legislature over issues concerning higher education. Over the last year, I have shadowed the student body president. I have been on the executive board, and we have fought the tuition and fee increases, stopping over $4 million in student fees from being passed annually. We have stopped mandatory health care insurance as a condition of enrollment. I've attended committee meetings, and aside from the current student body president, I am the longest serving member in CSUN. My opponent, on the other hand, has zero experience with the UNLV administration, zero experience with the NC Board of Regents, and zero experience working with any of these issues with them. I have the experience and the relationships working with the UNLV administration and the NC Board of Regents regarding these current issues. I know this job, and I would like to ask for your vote in helping keep CSUN moving forward, and vote for Rebels Reunited. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. More applause. Okay, question number 1. The president is the chief administrator and head of CSUN. How will your experience help you to execute executive board actions and to fix any internal CSUN issues you may see? Okay, I'll be happy to repeat that later. We'll start with Elias, 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. I first want to address some of the comments my former opponent made. In the 3 years that I've served as the head of my political organization on campus, I've worked with members of the state legislature, candidates, individuals on the Board of Regents. As a senator, I've worked with lobbying members of the Board of Regents. As a matter of fact, we actually have members of the community today that are running for office, and I've built these relationships so that in the future, we can work with the state legislature. In addition to that, I'm actually already working with the student liaison between the state legislature and the student leaders of this state. His name is Sabrin Feiner, and he's actually putting together the lobby date for the state legislature next February. And if I'm elected student body president, we will be ready. We'll be ready to lobby the state for our funding. But in addition to that, like I said, I came to UNLV when I was 15, and since then I've had the ability to harness my leadership skills. I want to touch base on some fundraising skills that I've worked on. I've fundraised for multiple different projects, particularly securing private funding for our undergraduate research journal, which we launched on campus without even coming to student government for funds. My co-senators and I and some student organizations are working on bringing Bill Nye to campus. He's cost $36,000. We've already worked in securing $12,000 through student organizations on campus and groups off campus. I founded the Students for Science Resource Board. We launched a medical training program. We launched a leadership program to ensure the success of our future leaders of this campus, but not just of this campus, of this state. We've launched an undergraduate research journal, like I just said. We launched a research enrichment program last year that's been endorsed by the College of Sciences Dean, and I've met plenty of times with members of this current administration, including the Vice Provost of Academic Affairs, Carl Reiber, former President Simatras, current President or interim President Snyder. So I guess I do establish the fact that I do have this experience in working with CSUN, or in working with members of the state and members of the administration. And this is the sort of experience that I received outside of CSUN that will change our student government and how we interact with members of the administration, the Board of Regents, and the state. And we need to change the way we interact with them, because what we're doing right now isn't working. We've seen that in the past 2 years, and we're going to keep seeing that if nothing changes. And so again, like I said, I do have that experience necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Jasmine, would you like me to repeat the question? The President is the Chief Administrator and Head of CSUN. How will your experience help you to execute executive board actions and to fix any internal CSUN issues you may see?
Over the last 2.5 years, I have been a senator for the College of Science. I have been SVPT, Senate President Pro Tempore, and I have been Senate President. I've shadowed the current student body president over the last year on the current executive board. And I've been there every step of the way with everything that has happened in this last year. Dealing with a lot of different issues regarding mostly with tuition fee increases. We've stopped over $4 million in student fees from being passed. We have froze parking rates until 2015. We have got to 20 new student parking spots, added to, and we've stopped mandatory healthcare insurance as a condition of enrollment. That's some of the things that we've already done. I've been a part of all of that. I've been there for the Constitution and the bylaws to when we rewrote all of it. We were the ones that did this. If you want to talk about experience, I already have all that experience. I know the job of the student body president. I've been there. My opponent has not. He's got all this experience outside CSUN, but he doesn't know what the job of student body president is. And he still doesn't know, what exactly a student body president is supposed to do. All these things are all for the College of Science. It's not that you're not representing just the College of Science, you're representing the student body as a whole. And by doing everything that I've already done, I've already represented the students, and I would continue to do so with what I've already, with our current platform. Thank you.
I don't want to be redundant. I think I did talk about what the president does, and that's essentially, and my my opponent actually mentioned it, and that's working with the state legislature, the Board of Regents, and this administration. But one thing that neither of us had the opportunity, or we didn't speak about yet, is the internal strife. This internal strife is because of this past leadership. And this is why we need to usher in new leadership. Another thing, we don't have core values set in our organization. What organization doesn't have a mission statement? We need to establish academic enrichment, professionalism, and a strong stance on advocacy issues to establish this. But one more thing. The first item on this administration's agenda, if elected, is to establish an advisory council asking for the advice of all of the student leaders on campus, regardless if you're from Greek life, or you're from the service community, or your science community, or professionalism community, so that way we can establish the new culture of CSUN. I want your input when we do that. One other thing. To address the internal strife, all right, thank you.
Jasmine.
Students are the ones that vote for us. As student body president, you represent all the students. They've done that with when they voted for you. You represent the students that voted for you, and even the students that don't vote for you. You are their voice. And concerning all these issues that happen, you're the one that's ultimately responsible for everything that does. It's your job as student body president to be the voice of all the other students. That's the reason why you're there. Internal strife, well, everything is handled for internal, issues. Everything is handled internally. People talk about current issues and problems. Well, you have to address it individually. Certain people don't like to be very open about them, but everything is to the public. Everyone knows what happens. Everything is being dealt with. There's no real issues that the student government is currently dealing with internally. Thank you.
I think UNLV has a dwindling campus life. And what events would you bring to campus to enhance the UNLV community? We'll start with Elias again.
Thank you.
2 minutes.
Great. So first off, campus life's not dwindling. We have a record number of sorority rushes, record number of student organizations. I'm not trying to say, we're perfect. We have gone a long way. We have a journey in front of us. And it's not a bad thing to be a commuter school. Everybody keeps talking about it as if it's a bad thing. I mean, it's great that we have so many non-traditional students. And it's great because they refocus our attention to why we're here. And that's to become successful members of this community, get our degrees. For many of us, we may look up to a lot of professionals or people in our community. Many of us, that's our parents, maybe our pastors, or local businessmen. But one thing that my administration wants to do, and it's actually going to take a complete 360 of this current administration, is fund TED Talks. Working with Michael Grema to do so, and bring role models that are a little bit harder to reach, such as Bill Nye, perhaps, right? Or I guess not Steve Jobs because he passed away, unfortunately, but Bill Gates. And again, from my experience outside of CSUN, I've already worked and continue to work as the student liaison to the Universal Education Foundation. I don't know if you know this, but in the past year, actually in this room, we've held the First Ladies of Mali, of Guinea-Bissau, in Las Vegas. We've held a group of Nigerian delegates, people from Nigeria. We flew them over here, student leaders and businessmen. So that way we can establish a culture of peace. That's one of the programs I work with. And we did so through interfaith and multicultural projects. And it is this that I want, and it is this standard that I want to set for professionalism at UNLV and within CSUN. The next item is actually social justice. We don't have a student government that talks about rape culture, or a student government that talks about reducing bottled water usage. I'm probably a hypocrite now. And we don't have a student yeah. Thank you, guys.
Okay, Jasmine? 2 minutes. Okay. As a commuter campus, do you think UNLV has a dwindling campus life? And what events would you bring to campus to enhance the UNLV community?
Well, we are a community campus, but that's not always a bad thing. Our average age of graduates is 27. With that, it just means that you have to appeal to an older audience, but also a wider range of audience. more hits than our Rebelpalooza concert that was on campus. And with high-profile artists for the concert series, instead of mediocre ones, we're spending less money for something more, and more students want to go to it. We've improved, student outreach. We've invented a marketing table that was implemented 2 years ago that reaches out to students. The current administration has already done it. Our ticket has the most experience in doing everything that we can to enrich the campus life. And we've already started doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Elias, you have a 1 minute rebuttal.
Great. I just want to point out really quickly that your Vice President candidate, Director Peltz, had a different story about commuter schools. So, I mean, it's okay. I disagree with Vlad a lot, but I would hope that your ticket establishes an understanding when moving forward with some of these issues. To go back to the social justice issues I was talking about, our student government doesn't even register voters. Why? Just why? I mean, we really need to work on bringing social justice as part of our student government again. And so, in addition to professionalism, in addition to academic enrichment programs, we want to bring social justice to become a core value of our student government. And again, that can be done through nonpartisan efforts. I don't think anybody disagrees with me when I say we need to have awareness programs on rape culture on campus. And if you do, I mean, well, maybe we need to talk about that. So that's it for that. Thank you so much.
Right.
We shouldn't be redundant in funding all these programs when our next door neighbors are already funding these programs. It's something that we've already worked together with, but that's not the goal and it's not the focus of what student government should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, question number 3 has some interesting parts to it. And it reads, do you believe in the idea and movement towards a top-tier university? What is your position on the proposed 17% tuition increase? Okay, we're going to start this time with Jasmine.
Okay, so you talked about top tier. It is definitely something that we should be working towards. It's definitely something that everyone wants, but it shouldn't be done on the backs of students and based off of raising our current students' tuition in order to achieve that goal. We're not going to see this happen. It's not for another several years down the road. We're all going to be gone by then. What are we going to get benefit out of it now as students for something that happens, well, in the future? But it's definitely a goal that we should be working towards, but not on the backs of the current students. The 17% tuition increase, it should be also, that's not going to help the current students. And it's not something that, I would support at all. And the students don't want to see the 17% increase. We can't afford education as it is, and less and less students are going to be able to afford education as they keep increasing our tuition. They're not going to stop with just the 17. They're going to continue and move on with more increases over the next few years. It's not something feasible for students currently now. Thank you.
Thank you. Elias.
Thank you. So I totally agree. Entirely, actually. But I do want to respond to something, and that is student government is nonpartisan. But if we really want to tiptoe with the Board of Regents or the members of the state legislature, wouldn't it work in our favor to have students register to vote? So that way we can say, hey, we have 5,000 students registered to vote in your district, or in this district, or in all of these different districts. If you don't vote this way in the next Board of Regents vote, you're going to lose your election. That is how we tiptoe with the Board of Regents. That is how we challenge the members of the state legislature. Now, as for the top-tier institution, I agree, but not on the back of students. My administration would actually propose alternatives from tuition fee increases and forward our administration's focus towards grants. Whether it's from the National Institute of Health or the National Science Foundation, our president should focus on developing the skills of our faculty so that way they're awarded more grants. Just like UNR was recently awarded a $20 million grant. That should be UNLV. But we won't stop there. We'll take advantage of the NSA directorship we have in student government, as well as the freshman council. And we will train freshmen in student government, collectively, on creating a student lobby corps for the state and the Board of Regents. Now, this may be amateurish, but guess what? We'll have a group of students that will be actively working to A, register voters, speak to members of the Board of Regents, speak to members of the state legislature, and you know what's going to happen to these freshmen? 3 years down the road, they're going to be sitting where I am right now, and they're going to have that experience to work with the state, and will be able to put a long-term forefront when dealing with this state. Another issue. We don't face these problems alone. UNR faces them, and universities across the country faces them. My administration wants to work with other universities and their student governments to address this issue. Thank you.
I'm not a political activist unlike my opponent. I don't believe in, that student government should be focused on registering to vote, as he keeps stating. You mentioned UNR. UNR wants the tuition increase. UNLV doesn't. That's the difference. We should be, we should be working with other student governments, yes, but UNR is not the one that wants to work with us. They want this tuition increase that's going to happen. They will be lobbying for it, and us as students should be lobbying against it. Thank you.
Elias?
Thank you. I just want to respond to the liberal activist comment. Registering voters is not liberal. I mean, if you're a Republican and you want to win an election, you need to register voters. So we're not going to stop you from registering to vote, whether you're a Democrat, Libertarian, Republican, or for the Jedi Party. Okay? So that's that. And in terms of convincing UNR, we took a trip recently to UNR for the football game. And then we were able to speak to students there. I wasn't there, but I know our administration was. If I'm in the administration, I'll go speak to students and tell them, guess what, guys? Your student government's messed up. You guys got to do something about this. And as UNLV CSUN, we will essentially assert ourselves over the other institutions here and take the lead in this state to fight off the tuition increases, because it's not in the benefit of anyone. Thank you.
All right. Let's see spirited candidates here. Question number 4. You all mentioned various leadership positions you have held, but how much value do you place on personal integrity and character? How do these qualities make you a better leader? We'll start with Jasmine.
Personal integrity. I was in ROTC and all that, and so I do understand the integrity, and it's something I do value the most. But it's something that others around me see. I'm very fair. I've never been unfair. Everyone around me knows it. I might be strict, but I'm very fair, and that is the one thing that they all comment on, and it's the one thing that they know. Over the last 2.5 years that I've been part of CSUN, it's something that I've learned working with other students, working with fellow senators, working with the executive branch and the executive board. It's definitely something that's highly valued, and it's already here. I already have that, and there's nothing more to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Elias?
Thank you. So character, in my opinion, isn't always built through leadership. Maybe, in fact, it's probably corrupted by leadership. And even though I'm only 19 years old, I came to UNLV when I was 15, and I got slapped in the face over and over by all of life's lessons that I probably weren't as ready for as I should have been. But I'm also the oldest of 6 kids, and my sister's actually in the audience, and I have 4 siblings back at home. And being the oldest, you're the role model. You set the status for integrity, you set it for honesty, for empathy, and for character. You're not only raised in that way, but then you have to turn around and raise it in your own siblings. And that is the sort of experience I had with, I guess, my younger counterparts. Like I said earlier, I worked for the Family Education Empowerment Foundation, and what I did with that was actually went around to different schools in North Las Vegas and gave inspirational talks specifically on character building, talking about trust and honesty, even internet safety and those sorts of things. And The reason why I was hired in the first place for a position like that is because I lead by example. And as student body president, I welcome all dialogue. I welcome all discussion. I welcome everyone's opinion. And I'm not going to, there's a difference from ruling with an iron fist and shutting the door on someone. And I realize that. And I hope you realize that in me as well. And even though I'm young, I hope you see that my experience goes beyond my years. Thank you.
Yep, not everyone has siblings. Well, not everyone. A lot of us do have siblings. I'm the oldest out of my family as well. And my brother looks up to me. I do a lot of things for my family, which is mainly the reason why I came out to UNLV. I came out here for low tuition and for the, affordable tuition, basically, that UNLV did have to offer when I did start at here. But over the last 2 years, it's gone up a lot, and it's really something that is becoming harder and harder for us to be able to afford. I pay for both my tuition and my brother's tuition. It's not something that with the current increases and the current issues that are happening, it's Thank you.
Any last word, Elias, on this question?
Thank you, but no rebuttal.
Okay. Well, the moment we've been waiting for, the fifth official member of all CSUN entities. What will you do to heighten the quality of work done in CSUN and the accountability of its officials? That's a mouthful. Let me repeat that. As an ex-official member of all CSUN entities, what will you do to heighten the quality of work done in CSUN and the accountability of its officials? All right. Let's start with Jasmine.
Well, we've already done that, actually. I am an ex officio member of all of the CSUN entities, and, we've reduced CSUN salary by 70%, and we have put a cap in the Constitution on CSUN salaries to prevent it from going crazy by future administrations. The students have to vote on it in order to change our Constitution. I've helped rewrite and reorganized our bylaws, and our salaries put into it. We've already done all that, and we want to continue doing that. It's something that's already there. It's something that we've already done, and it's something that my current administration has done, and something that our ticket will continue to do with everything that has happened. Our opponents haven't passed anything from the Senate. They've proposed nothing, really, and have no experience whatsoever doing any of that. And while one of my running mates for Senate President, Alex Murdoch, has that experience in proposing legislation in order to, fix the issues and, propose and help reiterate, some of the things and to do all of that. Thank you.
Elias?
Would you mind repeating the question?
Sure.
Thank you.
As an ex-official member of all CSUN entities, what will you do to heighten the quality of work done in CSUN and the accountability of its officials?
So an ex officio member, for those who don't know, is essentially a non-voting member on any board, and that's essentially any member in the executive board. But the true responsibility of the executive board is to foster true leadership through accountability. And we do that by providing resources and skills to the students that are on those boards. We need to give them a chance at experience. We need to foster teamwork. We also need to be ready to make hard decisions. I want to go into medicine much like Vlad, and they say that the best sort of medicine is preventative medicine. We need to set up an environment within CSUN to acquire two things. And the first one is giving students that sit on boards the resources, skills, and opportunity to develop their leadership, but also ensure that they don't fail, that they don't fall, right? In the past, there's been quite a lot of disagreements between members in the executive board. An example would be former Vice President Farr, who was impeached. And this resulted in a lawsuit, and that lawsuit hurt our organization. And much of that could have been solved through healthy communication, diplomacy, maybe even accepting disagreements from your own administration. You know what? I look forward to the bruises from Kanani Espinoza because she's really aggressive. I feel bad for the directors. And the long nights with Vlad because he and I do argue a lot on a lot of things. But you see, we never let these differences come, and we will never let these differences come to the forefront of our administration, to the forefront of CSUN, because it will not only damage the reputation of CSUN, but also its infrastructure. It does so because it doesn't give other students the opportunities to develop their own leadership skills, and it doesn't respect them in that sense. Thank you.
Jasmine, do you want to butt?
Well, my opponent mentioned Sarah Farr, former vice president, and the lawsuit that dealt with that. And the funny thing is that that was a Nevada open meeting law lawsuit. And his Senate president candidate, Vladislav Zhitny's mentor, Jay Yoon, former Senate president, my predecessor, was well responsible for that. You know, it's just something that should be out there. Thank you.
Elias?
Great. I just want to say, you know, as far as Jay Yoon, mentor doesn't equate friendship, and I think that's what it was. And Vlad was not associated with any of those issues. But I do want to go back and respond to something that my opponent had mentioned about no experience passing an item. Senator Zhitny and I, when we ran for Senate for the first time, we ran with a cause, and that was to change Wi-Fi on campus. Now, when Vlad was elected, he's worked with our student body president, Mark Cibola, and they evolved the bill to the floor. That eventually became campus-wide Wi-Fi for $500,000. Another thing, actually just in the past few weeks, I've worked with President Cibola in producing a resolution for the tuition hikes. I've worked on writing letters for the Board of Regents and mobilizing students that I know and that I'm connected with to go to the Board of Regents and, in time, to the state legislature. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, this is your last chance to impress.
Thank you for coming out, and thank you for the elections board and the director for hosting this. What do you think? Campus-wide Wi-Fi. Oh, that's a hot topic. President Mark Cibola was the one that proposed it. Senator Vladislav Zhitny had nothing to do with it at all. It was a sole proposal that President Mark Cibola, our current student body president, brought forth onto the Senate floor, and it did pass Senate unanimously, which Vlad did vote on. I voted on. But he had nothing to do with anything that concerned Wi-Fi. He never went to any of the meetings with OIT, UNLV administration, or construction planning. That's something that I have done with the current student body president. If they went on meetings, they would know that campus-wide Wi-Fi would be completed on May 31st. But I want to touch up on the last 2.5 years. I have the most amount of experience, aside from our current student body president. I've shadowed him over the last year in all these issues that concern higher education with UNLV administration, with the NC Board of Regents, and with the state legislatures. We are the ones that have the most amount of experience on this, that are currently running. My opponent has been in CSUN for 5 months, one of which has been winter break. He's never introduced legislation and has brought politics and his own decisiveness into CSUN. Now, if you vote for me, you know what you know what you're getting. And if you vote for my opponent, well, you don't know. You just don't. And that's what my ticket, Rebels Reunited, brings. That is what I bring to the table. So please vote Jasmine, James, and Alex in this upcoming election next week, Wednesday and Thursday. Thank you.
Elias?
Thank you. So I just want to rebut some items. When Vlad and I ran for Senate for the first time, this is the flyer that we used. Proponents for bettering Wi-Fi in all science buildings. That was actually one of the things. That was in 2012. That was before anybody started talking about it. Second thing, Mark's been a senator for 7 months before he ran for president. 2 of those months were over the summer. He campaigned on the exact same thing I did, except for the whole ushering leadership and changing the culture of CSUN and actually making an environment that we can work together with, just the rest of it. In terms of the politics, my opponent filed impeachment charges against me. My ticket, the opposing tickets filed, I think, 5 complaint cases against me. I filed the complaint too, I have to be honest, but I withdrew it eventually because, once I saw that I did that, I was like, you know what, I'm going to get sucked into the same politics they're in. And I forgot the reason why I'm running. But the reason why I'm running is so we can move beyond these politics, where we can change the culture of CSUN, restore core values of academic enrichment, professionalism, and again, nonpartisan advocacy issues like registering voters and maybe even helping Republicans win elections. I hope that next week, on Wednesday and Thursday, you go and vote, and you vote for all the right reasons, and you help me and my team usher in new leadership for our student government. We're counting on you, because we can't do it alone. With that, I want to thank you all for being here, and may the results be ever in your favor.